talk to me. I just wanna feel
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Find Me in a Book podcast. I am glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're back. And if you're new, welcome. We talk about books. We talk about, I guess it could be a review. We talk about the summary. There's some spoilers in certain books. I just tell you about all the books that I've read. And if you've read them, definitely comment on what your favorite parts are and suggest more books. This little book community that has been created for almost 3 years now, and I'm just glad that you're here. And I hope that you find the book that you are wanting to know more about. And I just hope you binge all my episodes. That's what I'm really hoping. Today's episode is going to be on The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. I think that's how you say the last name. Again, I'm not very good at pronouncing things. I grew up in a little town of Idaho. I can't speak very well. I can't read very well. Just kidding. I mean, kind of, but it depends on what it is. So if I do say names wrong, if I do say words wrong, it's fine. We're not going to think more of it. It's just how I am. So Helen, our author Helen, she has 3 books out. She has The Kiss Quotient, and then she has The Bride Test, and then she has The Heart Principle. And they are all in the same series. It's a series. And with different characters, I want to say that in these other books, the main characters of The Kiss Quotient probably show up just because the main male character in The Kiss Quotient, his cousin, it's his story, I want to say, that's in The Bride Test. And so they're all interconnected, and I will be reading the other 2 because I did like this book so much. And I had seen this book around, but I want to say that I looked at the back and it sounded interesting, but I just didn't pick it up. And so when I went to Bookman's, which is like a book thrift store this past weekend, I saw it and I read the back again because I'm like, so many people have talked about this. I've seen it. Like, I just want to know what's up. And I saw on the back, our main female character, she has Asperger's. And I am so intrigued. Like, when I see an author write about these differences, I don't know if differences is the right word, but really expound on people's like personalities and their quirks and really make them into real people. I love that. That's one of the reasons why I do love Abby Jimenez, is because she writes real life situations. She has one that one of the girls has endometriosis, which is relatable. She has one, the yours truly, that's my absolute favorite. He has social anxiety. I've really been liking discovering these authors and books that write about real characters and real quirks and real situations. It feels very vulnerable and very like just open for you to really dig deep into these books and see how these people think and see how these individuals think and act and like their thought process. I just love being in there. I love knowing about it. And so this book, absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. And we're going to get more into it. It was actually pretty spicy, but it wasn't a crude spice. It wasn't like a constant spice. It was very well done. There was more description than what I'm used to, but like what I've read in the past little bit, it is a bit spicier and more descriptive. But when you hear about kind of like the situation, it kind of makes sense. And I would put it at like maybe a 4 out of 5 spice. Like it was spicy with the details, but again, it wasn't like such passionate, crude spice, you know what I'm saying? Like it was very well done, very, very classy. And I would say I put a maybe for my sister, for the mother sister standard. I put maybe, but I think I do want her to read it. I would say no to my mom. I don't think it would interest her. But for my sister, my niece has autism, and it reminded me a bit of her, like the different quirks and different ways of thinking that this female character Stella that she was going through. It reminded me of my niece a little bit. And so that's one of the reasons why I really did enjoy this book and why I think my sister would like to read it, just to kind of look through her eyes and see and understand a little bit more. My sister is a very, very good mom. She's very in touch with my niece and very, just very in tune with her and helps her like advocate for herself. And my sister advocates for my niece with like her school and just to help her get the right accommodations and make sure that she's taken care of. And I really liked that. And Stella is at the point, the main female character in her life, I think she's like early 30s, that she knows about herself a lot. She knows what she likes. She knows what she doesn't like. She understands that she has a hard time with social cues, and it's interesting to see her thought process with that and how she comes to like her conclusions and how she really figures out, lives her life. Like it, I just really, really enjoyed being able to see all of this. And another thing, this book really like opened my mind to different stigmas with like our culture and society of what we have set, not only with like Stella and her autism, Asperger's, but also Michael. Michael is our main male character. With Michael, his is a different story, and I really enjoyed looking at it through his lens as well. This is a dual point of view. And he's in a situation that at first I was like, I don't know about this because of the stigmas and generalizations that I have just like been subjected to, I guess the word is. So with Michael, he is a male escort, and it says that on the back of the book. And I want to say that when I very first read the back of the book, like a while ago, that was the reason why I put it down, because I was like, oh, I don't know, like I wasn't open to it. I wasn't open minded, and with this, I was like, no, I want to read this. I want to know like why everyone is saying this is good, and I'm really glad that I did, because at first you're like, oh, interesting, like he's a male escort. But once you learn more about his story and look beyond the surface of like this profession, and I wouldn't even say his was a profession. He only was a male escort on like Fridays and weekends. And it was because his mom has cancer and she doesn't have insurance. And so he's taken on those bills without her knowing. She thinks that they are all covered and everything. And so he is using his male escort service, or him doing this to help pay for those bills. And he's not proud of himself, but he knows like he has to do what needs to be done. And I really admire that. And he's very family oriented. He wants to take care of his mom and sisters. His mom has like a dry cleaning business that he is now helping with and doing alterations. Like he went to design school, like apparel design school. Like he wants to be a designer. But once he graduated, he had to come back and help take care of his mom. And so he's just been doing like alterations at like the dry cleaning and just kind of doing his own side business with creating clothes, but not enough because he doesn't have like the time or the money. He wants to help his mom and family. And so we kind of dive right into this, where his mom has had like her chemo. She does get the news that it is in remission and she's doing really well. We get that like halfway through the book. And before I get more into like the characters and the story a little bit, I want to read this. It's from the author. So she did like author notes at the very back of the book, like once once the story is over. And I really loved it. Like, I loved getting her take on everything. And it's interesting. She was diagnosed with autism when she was 34. Like, she didn't really know why she felt different, or she wasn't picking up like social cues and a couple other things until her daughter was going through school, and her mom, her teacher was like, "Hey, I think she has autism, this, and this." And so the more Helen, the author, looked into it, she was like, "I don't think my daughter has this, but I think that I have this." And so she really researched into all of this and discovered and got diagnosed that she had autism or has autism. And she's always wanted to do a story like Pretty Woman, but make it the opposite genders. And so she started to think like, okay, how do I get the female character to want to hire a male escort? Like, what situation would she be in? And so as she was doing all this research and really discovering like her diagnosis as well, she's like, this is perfect. I am able to really speak through this character on different experiences and her thought process, and really create that vulnerability that they have, like this character has and also the author has. And I just really enjoyed it. It was very high level. Like, it wasn't like, this book wasn't silly. It wasn't like, it had its funny parts a little bit, but it was just so interesting that I was very intrigued the whole time. And yeah, so she writes about how the first time that she had ever heard of high functioning autism, previously known as Asperger's syndrome, was in a private discussion with her daughter's preschool teacher. And she was shocked by the teacher's suggestions, so she really looked into it. She said, real life me let it go, because like her family members and the physician, they said she was not autistic, but the writer in her was fascinated. She really wanted to do like a gender swap Pretty Woman for quite some time, but wasn't able to figure out why a successful, beautiful woman would hire an escort. One autistic trait from my quick internet research stuck with me. Trouble with social skills. That was certainly something I could empathize with. And compelling reason to hire an escort. What if my heroine was autistic like my daughter wasn't? I needed to learn about this character. So she started to research and discovered like a lot of interesting things. Like, there are books specifically for women on the spectrum. And she says, like, how come women need their own books? We're all people. And I love that. And she says, I figured men and women should be the same. Like, I purchased Asper Girls by Rudy Simone. The strangest feelings settled over me as I started reading her words, and it got stronger as I delved deeper into the book. Apparently, there's a major difference in the way autism is perceived between men and women. What I previously read described autistic men, but many autistic women, for a variety of reasons, mask their awkwardness and hide their autistic traits to be more socially acceptable. Even our obsessions and interests are generally tailored to be socially acceptable, like horses and music instead of license plates that start with 3. Because of this, women often go undiagnosed or diagnosed later in life, frequently after their own children receive diagnosis. Women with Asperger's exist in what people call the invisible part of the spectrum. I really like that. I didn't read this until after the book, but I loved it. It was so interesting. I'm very intrigued. I didn't know this. And that's another thing that I really liked about this book. It brought awareness. And I recommend this book because of that as well. And it really opened my eyes and created these personalities that I just really enjoyed. And you're really rooting for these characters and the situations that they're in, and you hope that they find who they are and together. And it just overall was so good. So let's get into the book now. Let's talk about Michael and Stella, because their story is so unique, and I've never read something like this, and I am open to all of it. Like, this year has just been so eye-opening to me, and I know that these are fictional stories, but I feel like they're based in kind of a reality, and especially with people that are perceived different, but aren't. Like, I just I have really enjoyed getting to know the different personalities of people that I might not come in contact with very often, or like I just love to learn, and especially be able to learn about these like syndromes and disabilities, like out on a limb. Just to be able to learn more about this in a book that I enjoy, and a romance book. I love that the book industry, and maybe I just haven't been aware of it or really like looked into it, but I love the inclusivity that's happening. I love that these characters are being built and are being discussed, and really starting to be more normal. To have characters with these quirky personalities, and it's not just like the stale story that we're all used to. And that's one thing that really brought up in my mind with like Michael, is that it was something that I hadn't heard, like, oh, a male escort. Like, I knew that they existed, but I didn't know a lot about it. And it was interesting to see, like, his point of view on being a male escort and having the rules that he does and boundaries. And for him to be, like, in apparel and a designer, and having the stigma of like, oh no, that's more of like a female like profession, and really looking past that and opening my mind, and saying like, no, it's okay, like it is any gendered, and really pushing myself to be like, don't automatically fall back on what I've been surrounded by and the generalizations and the stigmas and the culture, and don't automatically go towards what I have been taught or been surrounded. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have really enjoyed being able to push my mind and to be able to accept more, and I have really loved that. So sorry, I keep saying all of these things and how I felt, but let's get more into the story now. So we have Stella. We've talked about Stella a lot. She's extremely smart. She loves her job. She is in economics. I can't remember the specific word. It's like econometrist, econometrician, something like that. But she works with data sets. She's all about the numbers, all about data. She works with a company that is able to kind of predict different trends for the economy or for like shopping. Like, she is able to show data of like the types of people and demographics that these stores should target, and why they make the shopper makes the decision that they do make. And it's very interesting. And she loves it. She absolutely loves to work. She works like 7 days a week. She's so excited, just to really deep dive into these numbers. And so she has this coworker that he likes to sleep around. He likes to really play the field, and she hasn't really understood that. She has had some like sexual encounters with other men, but they haven't been very good. She doesn't know what she's doing, and she's just gone with it, and it hasn't been enjoyable. And so at one point she knows that she's having like a hard time with like social cues and with intimacy. And so she wants to find someone that could help teach her. And so she looks into a male escorting service, and she finds Michael. And Michael meets her at this restaurant that's attached to like this hotel. And they start to get to know each other a little bit. And he can tell like she's kind of quirky. He is very attracted to her. He wants to talk to her. He's very intrigued. Like, something feels different about this client than his usual clients. And he's there for it. Like, he's excited, and he's very patient, and he just like embraces who she is, and he wants her to be comfortable. So then when they go up to the room, he can tell that she's like terrified and nervous, and he's like, hey, like, let's just talk about this. Like, what are your expectations? What can I help you make, like, how can I help you be more comfortable? And she like starts crying, and he's like, no, it's okay. Like, we don't have to do anything. Like, let's take things really slow. And so he's like, hey, like, can I put my hand on your arm? And he just takes it very slow. And I love that. And shows her that she's in a safe place, and he's going to listen to her, and he's going to be like on her level, like he's just going to take it step by step, whatever she feels comfortable with. And so they decide to cuddle, like she's okay with cuddling. And so they cuddle and they fall asleep, and she wakes up and she's like, oh my gosh, like, wow, that was really great. And he opens her mind to more. And it's just very, very patient. And so she proposes like a fake dating, and is like, hey, I have this benefit in the next couple, like this benefit dinner that her parents want her to go to. I have this in a couple months, but can you teach me how to be intimate? Can you teach me how to be good at having sex, or knowing like social cues when it comes to intimacy or having a relationship, or just et cetera, you know? And he's really unsure about it. He's like, he had a client before kind of become obsessed with him and stalk him. And he's like, he has these boundaries that he doesn't want to go past because it protects him. But the more that he gets to know Stella and like her situation, the next day he's like, okay, I can do this. He sees his bills. He wants to help his mom, and she's offering a lot of money. And so he's like, I kind of don't really have a choice in his mind. But he feels really conflicted because his dad was a con man and really took advantage of of a lot of women, and just really screwed them over, and took all the family's money and left, and they don't know where he is. And Michael doesn't want to become that. He doesn't want to become anything like his dad. And so thinking about this, he's like, I don't know. And that's why he was very hesitant, but he decides to go forward with it. And over the book, they have, like, throughout the book, they have these experiences like dates, and he takes her out to a club, and she is okay with it, but the sound and the loudness, and she kind of just like she really shuts down. And so she leaves, and he's like, wait, what's happening? And he comes to understand a little bit more about who she is. And his cousin finds out that she does have autism, but he's not going to say anything, but just really has like a heart to heart with Michael, and saying like, hey, she has some different personality. I keep saying quirks. I wish I need to find a different like word for it. But he helps him understand her more. And I did like that, kind of bringing him down to earth, and really level with him. Like, hey, she doesn't like these loud noises. She has a hard time with touch, with the social cues, and really shows him like, hey, like this is how you can kind of adjust with this, because his cousin has a brother that is autistic, and so he understands the signs, and he is understandable in the personalities. And so yeah, over the book they fall in love, but to each other, him to her, he's like, she doesn't really like me. She just wants to learn, and she's very intrigued. And so he thinks like, no, she could never fall in love with me because I'm at like this different like social status, and I work at this dry cleaning with my mom, and he just doesn't think he's good enough. And then in her mind, she's like, oh, he probably just thinks of me as a client. He doesn't want to start this relationship because he's like nervous, or she's like, I'm going to become obsessed with him. Like that's my nature, and I need to kind of step back from that and not do that, because she knows herself, and just kind of like how their thought process go their thought processes go from either side, and just seeing them come to the conclusion that they love each other, and seeing them both kind of step away, but then knowing that they want to be with each other. It's just a beautiful, beautiful story, and I absolutely loved it. And yeah, it just how they come together at the end, and how they support each other, and the growth that you see in each of the characters, and especially Stella. It was just it was amazing. I don't think I ever really say awesome, but it was awesome. It was great. It was perfect. It was vulnerable. It was just everything that I wanted and more. Like I definitely enjoyed this author's writing. I enjoyed the characters, obviously, the story, just kind of the aspects of like the pretty woman, and I just really enjoyed learning more about this. It was so good. So that's that story. And I will be moving forward with book 2 and book 3 because I did enjoy it so much. I don't know when I will be able to read it. I am finishing the 5th book of the Flawless series because I want to try and do a mini episode. I know I said that I was going to do it last week, but I didn't have time. We've had a lot of people like come into town. And then I'm going out of town tomorrow. I'm going to Disneyland for my birthday for the next 3 days. And so I'm trying to film all today so that I can make sure everything is set up for y'all. I didn't do a mini episode last Thursday, so I posted it today on Monday so that you have one. And then I'm going to try and film this next one. We'll see how I do because I haven't finished the 5th book yet, but it's so, so good. So if I don't get to that episode yet, that mini episode, just know that I have loved each of the Flawless series more than the last book. Like, I loved Flawless, but I loved the second book more. I love the second book, but I love the third book more. I think the second book is still my absolute favorite, but I've really liked the 4th book a lot. And then I'm really liking the 5th book. Like, I just have really liked each one of those books. And so I highly recommend them. They go through like the same family. They're surrounded the same family. And I really, really have loved them with like cowboy small town romance. So don't wait for that mini episode. Start reading them now because they're just so good. And then I really need to figure out what books I'm reading next. I didn't do a TBR post for September, and now it's October, and I just get so, there's just so much, and I just forget. But anyways, I'm grateful for you guys. Thank you for listening to this book. I hope that it went over like the different details, and I hope that you're intrigued. And I didn't go a lot. I mean, I did go through a lot of like the personalities and the characters, not a ton of the story because I do want you to pick up this book. And so I hope that I intrigued you enough to want to pick this book up. I highly suggest that you do. I highly recommend it. It's so good. And it's going to go on my top reads for the year, absolutely, because I just really, really enjoyed it. So highly recommend. That's all I have for today, though. And definitely follow me on social media. Definitely subscribe on YouTube. That's where the mini episodes are. And wherever you listen to this podcast, if you can rate and review, that really helps me out a lot. I really appreciate it. And it's officially fall now, and I've absolutely loved it, except for in Arizona, it's still over 100. I'm like dying because it's so hot, and I just crave the cold. So let's hope for colder weather. Anyways, grateful for you guys, and I'll talk to you next week.